That's Gabriel.
I like the flashy future.
You know, I don't know when it happened. Maybe I ought to let you hear what I'm listening to. It's that peaceful sound. Just close your eyes and let it take you there for just a second. And I don't know how I got there, but last week, sitting there, listening to the ocean, and wondering, why in the world am I not hearing any longer? It's all those things in my life that have just gotten so crazy. All those things, and yet I'm sitting there and I've got my sunglasses on and I'm just listening to the waves crash, pushing out all the busyness in life, all the things that occupy my time. I'm running constantly and I'm not taking the time just to listen. To listen to the things that are around me, the things that I take for granted every day. It's almost as if I'd become deaf. I couldn't hear any longer. But it was something about the waves, something about the ocean. It's something about getting away. It just kind of brought life back. And I found that in the past few months, I'd just become so disconnected from everything. My life had been in an uproar with everything that had been going on with the children and the grandchildren down in Atlanta, with so much busyness in life, with a busy office and ministry, and getting to the place where after I come out of Saturday and Monday church and Monday night engage and Tuesday encounters, and I sit down on my couch on Wednesday, and the last thing I want to do is think. The last thing I want to talk about is God. The last thing I want to hear anything is more noise in my life. And last week, as I was sitting and listening to all that, there's something inside of me that said, how in the world did I even get here? I mean, if I'm honest with myself, and you probably could say the same thing, you've been there. You get so caught up in everything and noisiness all around you. And an hour passes into 8 hours, passes into 24 hours. One day goes into 2 days. 2 days goes into 4, 4 goes into 7, and a week has passed, and you haven't even realized, I don't hear anything any longer. And I ask myself, why am I here again? What was so distinct when I heard God speak? It was just so there. And I hadn't changed anything. I'm still spending time with him. But all the noisiness in life had just taken over. And I didn't know what to do. It took me a week last week. I didn't hear anything until Saturday, a week ago. So let me back up and tell you how I got there. You know, it's not that I wasn't doing things that were important. I mean, I'm doing all the normal things that I need to do. All right, as a man of the house with a job and with doing ministry and being a part of people's lives, it occupies so much of your time. And you get to that place where I'm up late at night, I'm getting up early in the morning, and you're just running on adrenaline after a while. And I'm still utilizing all of my time in the car. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to the Bible being read to me. But I realized on this last trip, there was no peace and quiet. There was no time to hear the whispers, because there was always noise. And there was no time to just sit back and say, God, I don't want to talk. I don't want to say anything. I just want to hear from you. And it's almost like I became deaf. You know, well, and we have these things right here, and this is, I think this is an example of what has happened. These are earplugs. Now, of course, you know, they don't cut out all the noise, but if you put them in your ear, it kind of muffles the sound, cuts out so much of the stuff, but not everything. And I start realizing that I'm listening to certain things, but I'm not listening to others. And so much of my hearing has become muffled. Yeah. And these things don't work, but sometimes they cut out some of the important things. And I realized that I wasn't listening. I realized that I was struggling with all that. But I was too busy to even stop, to even push anything away, to say, okay, what am I going to do about this? What do I need to stop doing? Because as far as I was concerned, everything I was doing was good. But the good is not always the best. And I realized it was a perfect example of what happened. I was upstairs with Woody probably a month and a half ago, and we were getting ready to pray before the encounter group. And it was, you know, my phone rings all the time. I'm constantly getting text messages. And right as we got down on the floor to pray before the encounter group, Woody starts praying, and then my phone starts vibrating. Well, it's not like a soft vibrate. It's like, you know, it just, if you put it on the table, it just kind of will scoot right across. It's that type of vibration, so it's not like it's really quiet. And I think Woody cursed my phone in the middle of that. It's like, but even in the middle of the prayer, I remember taking my phone out and looking at it and saying, oh, I'll talk to that person later. And you know, I realized later that night, as we finished praying up, that is what I was supposed to talk to. It hit me a month ago. I don't know how I just ignored it for a month. But what had happened, you know, if Woody calls me in the middle of the day, I have to admit, if I am not standing before a judge arguing something, if I can walk out to a place, I know he's not calling me for just a conversation and say, how's your day going, what's going on. It's usually always something important if he's calling me. So I will, even if I'm with a client, I will get up and I will ask to be excused from my client, and I'll walk into the other room and answer the phone. And I wonder, what happens if God was calling me? What happened if my phone was to ring and God was calling me? How would I respond to that? Would I say, I'm too busy? How would I respond if that were to happen? Would I just...
From God.
That's what it looks like.
Call from God on mobile phone.
And see, I have that choice. When God's calling me,
Call from God on mobile phone.
I have that choice of sliding this bar at the bottom and answering it or ignoring it. And I realize God is speaking to me all the time. I've got to be able to take the time and say, is this important? Am I listening? If God is calling me, am I just going to hit like I did that night? I'm just going to slide the ignore button. It's like, God, I'm too busy. God, I've got too much going on right now to really listen to what you have to say. You know, Elijah went through that. There was a time in Elijah's life, he had just come out of dealing with the prophets of Baal. He had spent the entire day them ranting and raving and cutting themselves and trying to get Baal to come down and consume the sacrifice. And Elijah laid over there and mocked them and made fun of them. And then later in the day, God came down and consumed Elijah's sacrifice. But after that, Elijah ended up running into the desert. He ran because one woman decided that she wanted to kill him. He ran into the desert and then he kept on running. And he went all the way to a mountain. And God came to him and he said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He replied, "I've been zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me." The Lord said, "Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattering the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. Then a voice said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?"